Welcome, everyone. We've got a very interesting evening lined up here that I've been struggling what to call it, but I'm calling it My Journey and Hypno-CBT in Action. And that's going to basically what we're going to do. This is a whole series we're going to do, and I thought really make things interesting for you. I'm going to interview one of our graduates who's taken the training, and we'll do it kind of as a three-part interview. One, we're going to look at the journey, the decision, and to take training, what the training was like, getting qualified, and then setting up in practice and what that is like and what it's like to be in practice. And then I'm going to ask also then for a sharing of this particular model that we use, Hypno-CBT, hypnosis and cognitive behavioral therapy with mindfulness and other things brought in together, a case study. So we can really see what it looks like when this is used in an individual real case. And so I think that's going to be very insightful, inspiring, informative, and it'll allow you to see. I want everyone to get a sense of what could we call it? The adaptability, flexibility, usefulness, and creativity of the approach that we have. And then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So we won't do so much Q&A at the beginning. I'll try and do more of a sort of interview like that. But I do want you putting your questions into the chat. Ideally, we should have a Q&A panel as well. Is that there? Yes, we have a Q&A panel too. So pop it into there. So that's the format for this evening. And I'll try and keep it to an hour and a half. Joining me is Denise, and I'm going to have a go at her last name and get nervous on getting these last names right. Iordache?
Very close. Iordache.
Iordache. Where are you from, Denise, originally?
So my last name is Romanian, actually. A very typical standard Romanian last name.
Wow. We have a lot of Romanians here and there scattered through. We have, of course, Daniel, who's on our team, and we have Maria, who's on our team in setting these events up as well, and several others too. So wonderful. Well, welcome, Denise. And
thank you.
I know I've seen your name, but we haven't actually spent that much time in person because I think you took the online diploma. Is that correct, or did you do the live webcast?
No, I did the online diploma.
Online diploma. And who was your tutor there?
My tutor was Slee Parish.
Ah, how fabulous. Okay, so let's dive into this. And just to give everyone a sense, just a kind of the overview, if we will, when did you train? When was that?
That was in let me just get it right. It was 1st of February 2021 that I signed up.
Okay.
And I have graduated by the beginning or middle of August of the same year.
Okay, that's quite fast, especially for the online diploma. Well done. And then, and so you've been in practice. Did you take some time to set up in practice, or you went straight into?
No, I went straight into it. So as soon as I got my certificates and diploma through the post, I have registered my limited business and I started going and hit the ground running as quickly as possible.
And you've called your therapy business Joy Space. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, I wanted the name of the business and the practice to have something from the transformation in it. So if there is one thing that I leave people with, I sure hope it's joy.
What a wonderful intention to have. And it's, crafting that through as the highest intention that flows through everything is quite profound, I have to say, that having an intention like that. So really well done. That's great. And then you specialize in, I'm sure you probably see some people generally for things as much, or maybe you don't. But you do specialize. Do you see people for other issues too? So tell us about your specialization a little, and then we'll get into the details.
Yeah. I specialize in sleep issues and worry. So my, so to say, slogan is I help professional women worry less and sleep better, so that they have enough energy to perform at their best at work and in life. That is what I decided to specialize in. And like many people on this call, and probably many people you've spoken to before, Mark, I was completely petrified of specializing. I was like, oh my God, no, but I know how to do so many things. But I decided in the end to narrow it down to this. And majority of the people that I see, I would say 90% of them are fitting in this category. And probably yeah, less than 10% at the minute are actually people who don't have a sleep issue per se, but they have a stress and worry issue.
But it's still very much on the worry.
Yes, very much on the worry. I call them my little worriers. They worry for England. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, so everyone's got the picture there, and we'll have a look at your website maybe in a moment. We can have a look at that so everyone can see it. But let's roll back the time. You said you started training with us was that
Feb 2021.
2021. So let's go back the time a little bit, do a bit of imagery-based recall here. Let's go before Feb 21. So what were you doing? And what were you thinking that suddenly made you think, oh, okay, I'm going to, and did you search for us? Did you find us? Were you referred? How did the decision process come? Where were you? How did this fit in with the journey for you?
Right. So I was very much doing everything that I knew how to do. I was in corporate marketing at the time. I had never an idea that I would ever set up my own business. So if this conversation would have been 5 years ago, I would have said, you're crazy. So never say never.
And no background in psychology, right? I'm just looking at your qualification.
No. So what I've done in terms of school, I have done my bachelor's and my master's in marketing, PR, advertising, that kind of spiel. And I have been working in marketing for a long time at the moment when I started toying with the idea of retraining. How this came about was in my own therapy, in the sense that I have gone to a therapist, which I chose to be a hypnotherapist, an integrative hypnotherapist, and funnily enough, a member of the NCIP. So it's just so you can see how everything comes about. Yeah, and I started seeing her, and I was going through the things that I was seeking help at that moment in time. This was late 2019, 2020. And then I started thinking, okay, I knew nothing about hypnosis besides what you see on TV. So initially when I went to her, probably I went like many of our clients, come, I'm here, fix me. I do nothing. I sit back and relax and you do it. And obviously she explained, and she was telling me that's not really how it works. And then we went through the process, and I think 6-7 months into it, I was telling her, I'm realizing that there are a lot of people like me who have no idea about hypnosis, hypnotherapy. So should I train in it? And she was like, why not? Do you like it? And I said, yeah, I kind of do. I get the gist of it. I really like it. And she said, well, find out more. So she encouraged me to find out more. And then I started, as I said, toying more and more with the idea, what type of hypnosis, what type of approach do I want to have? Considering my background, I'm quite a analytical and type of organized person, also due to my previous career. I was like, I'm not interested in the woo-woo. I'm not interested in the come to me, I will magically do something and then you will leave all renewed. And then I went knocking on different schools' doors. I think I've got prospectus and emails from about 5 or 6, including our own dear college. And some of them, I'm not going to lie, they were excruciatingly expensive for what they were offering. So price was taken into account at that moment. But then I just didn't connect with what they were putting in the prospectus. It just felt still a little bit of woo. And I was looking more for a protocol. I've done IT in my past life before I did marketing. So I was like, I want an algorithm. If you do this, then this will happen. And that's how I came to the college. And then I exchanged a couple of emails. I think it was Jacqueline at that time, or it might have been somebody else in the team. But we went backwards and forwards a couple of times before I made my decision. And I said, okay, it needs to be evidence-based. It needs to have a solid foundation. And I need to believe in it. And I just didn't believe in any of the other modalities.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So how was that? And then what was that like, taking the training? So that's how you came to that decision point, and evidence-based became a sort of a critical deciding factor for you, and not having any of the woo in there. And I'm glad our materials got that across. I'm sure we could do it better. We should talk because you're in marketing. So, but so how was it taking the course? The stage one, unpacking hypnosis, and then getting behavior therapy, and then the cognitive therapy. So what was that like? The experience of. But by the way, let me back up a little bit further.
Yes.
So you have the idea when you took the training, were you thinking I'll train and set myself up in private practice, or were you thinking I'll just train because it's interesting? I mean, what was did you have a vision, a plan, or was it like I'm just going to see where this goes?
Semi vision. I wasn't completely convinced in the sense that I'm taking the training because I want to open a practice. I was more in I want to learn more, and not from a therapy point of view. I want to learn more in the sense of education. And then as I started stage one, it must have been in the first or the second meeting with Slee. She basically says, oh, okay, so when we are starting your practice, and I was like, whoa, we're starting a practice. I didn't know yet. And that kind of, planted the seed of doubt. Oh, hello, little doggy. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. And I said, okay, well, then it can happen. So it wasn't immediately in my head when I was going through the training, but it was.
Hold on a second. Someone's sharing a screen here. I need to switch that off. Host only can share. I don't know why that's happening. Can you, Miroslav, can you stop sharing your screen there? She said you only... Stop participant screen sharing. There we go. Okay. I don't know how that happened. Shouldn't be able to happen, but it did. Anyway.
So where was I? She planted that seed, and then I was like, okay, this could be a thing. Will I let go of marketing? At that moment in time, I was already, I don't know, 15 years in marketing. So I was like, okay, it was a big shift to think I'm going to leave this behind and I'm going to do something else. So I didn't. But the seed was planted when she was asking me, what are you going to do with your diploma? And
so there wasn't some little hint of that before. That's really when it first came in as an idea.
No, there wasn't, because I always said that I prefer working for somebody else.
Yeah.
That I'm that type of person. I would rather be the CEO of your company than it was just I don't know. It was something it was a story. Let me put it this way. It was a story that I repeated to myself for a long time. And I was truly convinced.
That a story that said, I love working for other people, or I would never be able to be a self-employed professional and run my own business.
Correct.
It's interesting that, isn't it? I remember saying that a long time ago. Look at me now. My brother, I think, can say, oh, I'm just never the sort that could actually do, but in the webinar, I have been saying that it's a very empowering thing to grasp this. It's a very empowering thing to grasp it and realize, I don't need to follow in anyone else's wake or slipstream. I can be that boat cutting through the ocean myself.
Yeah, it was a long process for me, to be honest with you, because I trained, I was working full time. And as you know, there was a pandemic, and I did that. So from the beginning of 2021 until January of this year, I did everything in parallel. So I was a full-time marketing head, and I was a full-time person dedicated to my business.
Okay, let's come back to that moment there where you make that switch, but I want to come to that a little bit later. Okay. And just this idea of, and perhaps this is a sort of tracking thing in terms of it. So that's about believing that you're able to do that, or that you're the sort of person that does that. Now, that journey of self-belief where something changed and I could do this, I can do this. And is that about the marketing and the discipline of running a business? I can't imagine really. Or is it about feeling that you're going to have the valuable skills to offer? Because there's two things: having valuable skills and a market that needs, but then there's the marketing of that. and some people don't feel like they can have the valuable skills. Some people don't believe they can do the marketing, and sometimes it's both.
For me, it was the actual doing, in the sense that somebody would pass through my virtual door and I will be able to help.
Okay.
It wasn't that I didn't believe in the materials that I was going through, or the tools or the exercises. It's just I needed to participate in those practice sessions, in working with my volunteers, and I needed to see them as, providing feedback and say, you know what, yesterday I had a meeting with so and so and it went so much better. And I was like, woohoo. And, inside I was thinking, wow, this could work. So it was more of my own ability of taking everything that the college is sharing and doing it.
And then hearing the results.
Yes,
and that validating and giving you the. So, and when did that happen? So you've got stage one, and then so you meet with Slee, and then she starts saying, when you practice. But when did that sense of like, I actually have something here that works, that could help people? When did that happen? Do you think
I know exactly when it happened. It was I believed it to some extent throughout the course, but then there is this script. I call it the 2 paths script. Is the time projection and time management script, with the path of error, the path of success or excellence. Yes. And I did that with a friend at the time, because I thought, oh, it's a script that can help anyone. So I wasn't worried about the closeness that we had. She wasn't a close friend, but I knew of her. And I remember at that time, she wanted to work on something specific, in the sense that she wanted to go to the gym and start getting in shape. And I said, well, let's do this and see how it's helpful for you. And we had the script, and I remember what she was telling me during the exercise, where she was seeing the path and everything. And I think it was a week later, she sent me a message and said, whenever you decide to do this, I will give you a testimonial. And I said, oh, thank you. That's very kind. And she wrote the testimonial before I asked her for it. And literally the sentence starts with, I could not believe that after one session, because she did go to the gym and she can, kudos for her. She continued the habit and so on and so forth. So I was probably the right person at the right time with the right script for her. But that was the moment when I was like, we can do this.
That's going to be stage 3, day 5, if I get my days right.
Yes.
Something like that. So just describe for everybody, because some people here are already taken the training, some are taking it, some are new and listening in. I just want to say hi, Lisa Gray from Oakland, California. That's fantastic. You're connecting with us from Oakland. Just give a quick 1-minute summary of that script for people. Maybe you can just let them know kind of what's the.
Yeah, so obviously we induce hypnosis and deepen, and convinces are also very helpful. And then you ask your client to go and imagine a fork in the road. When they get to the fork in the road, you're just asking them to imagine themselves there in whichever form they can. It doesn't have to be an actual fork in the road. Just make pretend or believe or imagine. And slowly they're getting a little bit lifted from the ground, and then they go down one path and see how that progresses with their existing cognitions, with their existing thoughts. Oh, sorry, I already said that. Behaviors, with their existent, way of life. They see the path and where it's taking them. And in many, many cases, they all say that it's very dark, it's very unpleasant, it's the path of error, right? That's the first one that they're going to go through. And then they come back to the fork in the road and they go through the other path, where they have been able to think the new things that they wanted to think. They have a better behaviors, better habits, maybe more self-belief. And obviously this path is the path of excellence, and it tends to be more sunny, happier, more lightful, joyful kind of path. And then they have to decide which one are they going to take. And it's like a ground zero for commitment. Which path are you going to take? And you ask your client, and they need to choose which one. And I tend to say, as it is in the script, you need to, make your decision now for yourself and so on. But I also ask them to imagine that this is the ground zero of commitment. From this moment forward, we make a commitment. We don't just say, oh, that path is very nice. We make the commitment for it. And they emerging and so on and so forth. I should have said that we start by analyzing the current situation and the future situation. So we do that as a preamble before going into hypnosis.
I was just showing them the script as you went through, so we could go through. And so, yeah, it's based off from Greek philosophy, actually, from the Stoic tradition, the paths of excellence and error and excellence, and really understanding the choice here and the long-term impact of that choice. Yeah, and having people experience that in there. And in the script here now, we don't always induce hypnosis. Sometimes we just have them close their eyes and imagine.
Yes, correct. In this particular case, when I was referring to my volunteer, we did do it with hypnosis. I do tend to do it with the people who have gone through hypnotic skills training with me, and I know their level of imagining. We do it with just a couple of deep breaths, and then they go and imagine their path and so on. But I do sometimes think it's almost the ritual of it, that we're going to do it with hypnosis, makes them have more self-belief in that commitment. So
yes, I think it's interesting, and I'm a great one for just doing imagery without hypnosis, but also I'm interested in what hypnosis adds to that, and when that both the imagery and hypnosis working well, how spontaneous and easy it is, and it's quite interesting in terms of the people being, I think, more open, disinhibited somewhat. Allows them to their emotions are a bit stronger. Everything's a bit stronger than normal. They're allowing it to be a bit stronger, and that has more impact for them. Anyway, we could talk about that a little bit more. Let's stay back on your training here.
Okay.
So what was that like doing the online diploma? Because you did the online, not the live webcast. You're watching the lectures, you're meeting SLE, you're doing the practice sessions. How did you fit that in? What was that like? Motivation, schedule?
Motivation, I have no clue. I don't tend to rely on it because it's such a funny bee. It appears and disappears. But I had time assigned every day in my calendar for, I knew when my meetings were, I knew when I had to deliver something for work. So I was just scheduling effectively, like I was doing if I was going to school, right? I knew that between this time and this time, I need to go through something from the material. In terms of the platform and the materials that I had, the manuals, the slides and everything, for me, they were very logical. That's why it was very easy for me to go through them, because I took them in order as they were presented. And it just felt natural, right? And if I, had a video that was maybe a little bit longer, and I would see that, and I knew that my diary only allowed for 20 minutes, let's say today, I didn't start it to pause it and to try to scramble my brain like that. I just didn't start the video. I read something else instead, or I reached out to other people to ask them to be volunteers of mine. So I didn't want to make too much of a time commitment on the days when I knew that I only had a very short period. Now, what helped me a lot, obviously, was COVID and everything being in a lockdown. So not much to do in the sense of besides work and very limited socializing. And what also helped me, I think, was just the encouragement also from the videos when you were teaching and in those, but also from SLE, in the sense that she was like, oh, just ask people, just have volunteers. And I said, well, I already have volunteers for stage 1. Just have more. Just practice. And I was like, okay, I'll just practice. So I think everybody that I asked to be a volunteer at that moment in time started with Hartland's ego strengthening script. Even though my exercise was in stage 2 or 3, I always started them from the beginning, because I just, in my head, it was just like more and more and more practice to get used to doing it, and for them to get accustomed to hypnosis. So yeah, that was, I would say, my way of doing it. And I had a dedicated part of the room where I was working, I had a dedicated part, and I always worked on my work laptop for work and on my personal laptop for my personal things. So I was literally moving offices when I was changing.
That's I think there's an aspect of the body building up a habit nearly then by doing that location change and equipment change. So very smart, very smart. So before we go into the assessment and ask how that was, because and the case studies, let me just ask, what was your favorite bit of the training, or what was your favorite exercise or lecture or content? Or
My favorite has to be the habit reversal protocol.
oh, interesting.
Yes, that I remember that one being my favorite. One of my case studies was somebody who was a nail biter as well, so that kind of fitted in with my preferred protocol, so to say. I just saw it being useful for many applications, and I think I liked it because yes, you could do it with hypnosis, without hypnosis, imagining, and I just liked it a lot. I don't use it as much these days because what I'm trying to do most of the times, I'm trying to help people let go of the habits, such as scrolling for days before they go to bed. And I don't really have something to replace that with. I haven't yet imagined one, but I do use it from time to time when somebody who's has more, something that I want to replace with, and it feels like a swap. That is, yeah. I go back to it.
So just for everybody, that's a very behavior therapy protocol. It's a single 2-hour session that was developed by Gregory Nunn and somebody, Azrin, I can't remember his first name, back in the 1970s. And it's incredibly effective for things like nail biting, skin picking, nose picking, eyebrow pulling, twitches, tics. It's used for Tourette's. And there's no hypnosis, particularly in the protocol. We can add it in, but very, very effective, impressively effective, the results. And yes, yeah. I think it gives you just a sense of like, well, how to change habits, what it takes to change a habit. And I think that's that in a single 2-hour session, it doesn't take 21 days to change a habit, does it?
Yeah, exactly. As long as the commitment is there from the client or the volunteer. And I think the commitment and the belief. So they need to believe it, that it can change. Yeah. Because if they don't believe that they can change, well, it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, that self-belief and that expectation is quite extraordinary. The protocol facilitates that with somebody who's been a 20-year nail biter. Within sort of 90 minutes into that 2-hour session or whatever, they realize like, I can let this go and I can stop it. I am in control and I can stop it. So
genuinely, my nail bite case study, he did that for 25 years. He doesn't bite his nails. It's been nearly 4 years.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary thing. It sounds like a small thing to help people, someone stop, but it's a big thing for them. In terms of how they feel about themselves and then what they think they can do once they've accomplished this. Yeah.
100%. There were so many changes in that person's life afterwards. I mean, the celebration is a big part in what I do with my clients. And I always ask them, how are you going to celebrate? Even if it's, I got up and I did the dishes today, how are we going to celebrate? I'm very big on celebration. And I remember when I asked my case study, how are you going to celebrate? And we were on Zoom like we are today, and literally close to the camera and said, I got a manicure. And he is a man with a wife, kids, everything, but he was so proud of his achievement that his nails were impeccable, and I thought that was the best celebration.
Fantastic. Wow. So question, behavior therapist or cognitive therapist? I mean, if you had to choose, which would you choose?
Can I say neither? I want both of them. No, I can't see one without the other.
Okay, very good. Well, very good. Okay, so diving in then, how did you do in terms of your case studies and the assessment? How was that process for you? How did you get through that? Because that's where a lot of people get stuck. They just can't manage to case studies. They don't start them. And then when they start them, but then the assessment, and it's like, oh, how did you manage to get it done?
I am struggling to remember which one came first, whether I did the first the case studies or the assessment. I'm trying to remember which one was the first one. But what I can say about the assessment is I saw it as, you've got this far, you need to answer these questions. It's neither here nor there. You have done all of this, amount of work, so now you have to answer them. And then on the case studies, I started thinking about case studies as I was going through the diploma. Again, Slee, shout out to her, because she was asking me to, plant the seeds. And I asked people to think of other people in their lives and, friends of friends of friends. So like be quite removed from me. And I had them in my mind, and I started thinking about working with them and asking for their commitment, and they said yes. And then we went through the actual process, getting the agreement signed and everything else. But were the questions difficult? A couple of them, I'm not gonna lie, a couple of them were a little bit challenging. I was questioning whether I'm answering the right way or the wrong way. But then at some point I just let go of the expectation of getting each and every one 10 out of 10. I think I started the assessment thinking everything will be 10. And then I said, so be it. If it's an 8, it's okay. Nobody's going to die. It's fine. And the case studies I really, really enjoyed. I have to say, the whole experience for me in the whole training, it was made so much better because of the commitment and the support from Slee, and also my tutors. I'm sure that all the tutors are the same. I just happen to have her, and also from the way the teachers were teaching in all of the classes that I was, viewing online and so on. It just made it fun for me. So not doing the assessment at the end or not doing the case studies was just as if I would go back to uni and not get my dissertation after 2 years of masters. I was like, no, I have to do it. It needs to happen.
Fantastic. And did we have the level? Have we got the level 5 by that point, or was the level 4 that you did when you?
No, the one I did initially was level 4, and I remember you saying the assessment and everything is a level 5, but we're still at level 4. So I got that, and then soon after conversion and things like that started being shared with us, and now I am at level 5.
Fantastic. Okay, and what was that like, actually getting your qualification, and I mean, and that process in terms of both the case studies, but also the written assessment, in terms of it being formative for you rather than merely assessing, but did it actually help you? And then what did it feel like to get your qualification?
I think it helped me summarize and conceptualize and be concise, because in marketing, you tend to speak and speak and speak and write and write and write. So having to fit everything into 600 words was a challenge. So definitely helped me see things from that perspective. But it was also cementing the learning, because the questions in the assessment are questions from what you've been going through. So yes, you go back to those materials, you go back to the slides, you remember, you go again back to a video. So I think it's very much about cementing the learning. And the case studies, it was getting familiar with the process of, hi, I don't know you, I've never met you, you're kind of like my client. Okay, we have to go through the assessment, we have X amount of time for that. I need to ask for your details. You need to know my privacy policy. Those kinds of things made it feel real, because it's one thing to have a volunteer that maybe you know, and it's another thing to have a case study that you definitely shouldn't know, at least.
Yeah, and this process of stepping into the role properly and fully and inhabiting it. When we used to do the live in-person training on day 6, stage 1, where you do your initial assessment, we would say, right, we'd say, right, all the people playing being the therapist, you stay here, set up your little corners with your papers, all the clients leave, go outside, right, that's the waiting room. And they had to come. I said, there's none of this like giggling and saying, You've got to properly present yourself professionally, come to the door, meet your clients and take them to your little therapy corner and do it properly. And you need to stay enrolled. But it was that in itself boosted their confidence. They got to do it properly.
100%. Yeah. You need to guide the other person. Yeah. You need to be able to be in that role in order to offer something to the other person, because otherwise you can just sit there and
it's like it is kind of acting as if, but there's a kind of sometimes like a sort of an empowerment, a protection that comes from fully stepping into that. You leave this other stuff behind, you leave all your negativity about yourself or limiting beliefs behind, because you need to be this for this person. You become the therapist for this person, and that role has got its own something very, very beautiful about it when you step into that fully. So
yeah, I do believe that even though they are case studies and they know that, they do have an expectation of something is going to help me, something in here is going to better my my habits, my cognitions, whatever it is. So yeah, they already have an expectation as case studies. So we also need to show up for the occasion.
And be there. Fantastic. So now, did you choose to do anything else? Because you mentioned doing insomnia. I don't know if you did the insomnia. I can't remember. I haven't looked to see what you took with us. Did you take anything else with us or anywhere else that helped you there? Yeah.
Yes. So I did the training that you conducted, actually, the CBT for insomnia. So did that one, I think, very quickly after I graduated, and a couple more. I think it's CBT for perfectionism. I'm currently enrolled in the part 1 of Don Mickenbaum's legacy course. What else? There is something else that I have. The conceptualization, that one I still need to start. Okay. I have that in my library. You
didn't do the stress management resilience building, because I know that has a module on worry, and I was just a bit more than in the main diploma. Yeah,
it is on my list. It is on my list of doing it next. And then I did take another insomnia course. I will tell you what it was, because I don't remember it by heart. It's from a different school. I don't know if it's important to name them by name, but it was about specifically cementing the learnings for CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, and giving some more case studies there and doing a little bit more practice. It's a self-paced study, but it seems to give a little bit more information in terms of different cases. So it's not so much that I've learned a new protocol. It's just the variation of cases and degrees.
Examples, yeah. Good. So, because as you know, in that day, I do cram quite a lot into the one day. There's a lot to communicate. And it will probably be good to add some cases in there. Well, maybe you can help us with that, and we can add some cases in. People can see some different applications of it. And I always think it's really a nice workshop, even for people to take as kind of an entry level, because I think you get to see the CBT model, which I know you're going to present when we do the case study, in action, in quite a very sort of tangible way, in terms of the maintaining factors, and how these sleeping problems get maintained. So, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about how did you get, so when did you make the decision, right? You stayed working, you set up your practice, then website.
Yes, everything by the end of 2021, everything that is related to that existed.
So let me just I'll call up your website. Well, you tell me, so what was that process like in terms of getting your getting the business started and then making the decision to go full time?
Oof. So getting the business started was not that difficult. Letting go of my marketing career was the difficult piece of the puzzle. Because I just felt like it was a part of me for 18 plus years. And it was always is this really it? Should I, jump to this new thing, or should I not jump, or what to do? So I stewed on that for quite some time, and I was having internal conversations with myself.
But you started to see some clients even while that process, while you're working, you were seeing some
Oh,
clients.
yes. I started having volunteers, as I said, to do the course, right, and then the case studies, and then I left, so to say, the college with the clients already, because they were from the volunteers that I started seeing when I was training. So
Oh,
some of them came
they were
back.
happy to convert to being paying clients.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I can't say, "Oh, what was your first client like?" because you'd already seen them via the case studies.
Yes, my first client was actually the first idea that I had of specializing, somebody who was struggling with emotional eating, and we were working around behaviors, and the habit reversal protocol was used a lot with biscuits and other things. And she was happy to pay because we did a session, and she was happy because she saw some results, and then we continued as a paying client. But I did see clients throughout the period of time while I was still working. So the best way to describe it is that I was working two full-time jobs. I was doing my work 9 to 5, and then I was 5 to 8, 5 to 9 in my other work. And then everywhere that I had time, there was, updating something on the website, trying to think about marketing opportunities, do something more, create a sleep program, work on, creating something, what we call a freebie, something free to give people to help them sleep better. And all of these things have happened in the same amount of time.
While you were holding down the full-time job.
Yes, but I should caveat that, because I was familiar with the job. I was familiar with what was expected of me from that particular job. So I don't want to make it sound too wow, but I knew what I was doing. It was such a embedded automatic behavior with whatever I was doing, that even if my mind forgot, I realized that I did sort things out when I didn't think about it, because it was such a repetitive thing, what I was doing.
I get that. Okay. Well, it's kind of nice that you had that, a job that you can keep ticking along with relatively little sort of stress and over focus, and be able to bring your focus to this on the side there. How much did you charge when you first started seeing clients? Can I ask?
I was charging £65 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
The first client, I think I charged 50. Yes, the first one, I think it was 50. And then I always considered an hour to be 60 minutes. I still, to this day, I don't do 50 or 55. For me, 1 hour is 1 hour. Makes sense in my head. Today, I am charging 125 for the assessment, which is an hour and a half, and then 85 for the sessions after. My assessment to this day is still 1 hour and a half.
And you, okay, yeah, I also always did an hour and a half assessment, and just there's so much to cover, and it's so formative. The whole first assessment is the hardest thing for sure, I think. And you see people in person or online only, or both?
Online only. When I decided to do this and have my own practice, I decided that I want to be what is most important for me, location independent. And as long as there is internet, I can be on the moon. That's what I say. So that's what I've done from get-go. Everyone that I've ever seen has been online.
And how's that work out in terms of the therapy being effective online?
Well, to be honest, I think it's better, at least for the type of clients that I'm seeing. It feels like it's much better for them to be in their own environment when we are going through this, especially when it comes to sleep and sleep environment and so on. But when I started this, I was in London, and the whole idea of getting somebody, because I was thinking I'm going to work with corporate people, getting somebody from their 9 to 7, 9 to 9 p.m. job to, schlep across London to come somewhere and then to go back. It just felt like, oh, I'm wasting their time. Yes, some of them would have been local. I completely understand why people do in person. There are many reasons and valid ones. For me, it just felt like, oh, I would rather see them when they are at home, or when they have their lunch break or something, because I don't want to add more to their already stressful days.
And where are your clients from geographically? Are they from London or
Yes.
everywhere? Or
At the minute, and at this particular moment in time, I have clients in Beijing, in China, Japan, Germany, the UK. Again, majority of them come from the UK, and Greece.
Interesting. And mostly, when we say corporate, in terms of professional managerial, that's
yes, majority of them. Yes. It has been either software engineers, or I tend to say corporate to the more office based kind of jobs, but they tend to be in a managerial role or higher. Yeah.
So before we kind of dive into some questions on the marketing, which I think people will be interested in, and I do want to invite you to pop your questions in here, everyone. I know I did ask you to turn your cameras off, but do be here and pop your questions in so we can see what you, and what you want me to ask Denise here. But I'm just going with I want to ask about seeing these first few clients, what that was like in terms of, did it work? Were the first few clients complex, difficult cases who didn't come back? Or
no. No.
People, I know one of our trainers, and she just always, her first few clients was so difficult and complex. And on insomnia, I was like, I can't believe that seems to be her destiny, is to make things difficult. You want easy clients to begin with to build your confidence, and then you work.
I don't want to say this, but in a way, I think I repelled the complex cases at the beginning. Look, when I graduated, I would have worked with anyone, anywhere. I was within my sphere of competence. I was like, yes, please, let's do it. But in the back of my head, what was repeating the story I was saying to myself was like, yeah, but set yourself up for success. So let's have people with a little bit more, benign kind of things. So they're a little bit worried about an interview. They need to prepare for a presentation. Not somebody that is, questioning their life's decisions and struggle with sleep. So in my head, I was going more with that story. Yeah. And I had this client that, as I said, she was reverting to food as a coping mechanism. But everything else in her life was more or less okay. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I can work with this. It's okay, because I didn't want to take a case that was so complex that I would feel like I'm not doing a good job here. Obviously, I had my supervisor. I was in supervision from the moment I graduated. I cannot speak highly about it. We all need to be in supervision, in my view. Not because the professional bodies are asking, but because we need to for ourselves. And I just wanted to make sure that the cases I take in the first few months, they're not going to be so complicated or so complex that I will shatter my self-belief.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really important. There's a slight element of luck in that, I think, but also it seems like your intention to let's keep it simple to begin with. It was active and perhaps influencing things and how you came across. So good. And maybe let's just talk for a moment on sphere of competence. What was that like? And maybe explain that for people initially, because people maybe have questions about that. What do we mean by that? What was that like for you initially? How has that changed?
Initially, I was very, very guided by all of the assessment questions that we ask people. In the sense of I was very strict with where does mild depression sit and whether it's moderate. In my mind, as soon as it was a moderate score in the depression questionnaire, the PHQ-9, I was like, I need to speak to my supervisor because I felt like everything was a risk in the sense. So yes, the case itself fitted under my sphere of competence. So it was somebody struggling with worry or stress, and I knew I could help them, and it was within my remit. But if anything tipped a little bit above mild, I was getting a little bit, I was like, okay, keep going through the assessment, get as much information, and then speak to your supervisor. That was the thing in my head. Currently, I am not so focused on that anymore, because I understand more now that those assessments are a snapshot in time. And I tend to, when I see somebody and I feel like, oof, this is a little bit high here, I don't know if I am in the right place, myself, as a therapist, I repeat the questions in 2 weeks' time.
Very smart. I think that's such I haven't had anyone say that actually quite like that recently. And I think that's so, because of course, when people are reaching out for help, it's not likely to be when they're feeling at their best. So that initial session, you may, and I know in psychiatry, they talk about watchful waiting. So this idea, just before we make a sort of diagnosis and throw the medication and stuff, bit of watchful waiting, providing there's no risk here and things aren't getting too much worse, see what happens a bit. But that aspect about not forming a fixed view of the severity until you've actually seen it, how it moves through time a little bit. Very, very wise, very wise. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I tend to do that because of a client I had at one moment in time. She was much younger than the cohort of clients I tend to see. She was in the early 20s. And there is this question that everybody probably dreads. Have you ever thought about harming yourself, or that you would be better off dead? And she said yes. And literally my heart sank to the floor. I was like, what am I going to do now? And in my head, I was calling GPs and I was doing all sorts of things. But she said yes. But then when we discussed it, it was very, very obvious that it was actually a no, but she said yes because on that particular day was a very difficult day for her. Yes, I finished the session and I called my supervisor. I promise you that, because I wanted to make sure that I'm not putting anybody in danger. But then in the next session, I realized that she was in a much different state of mind, and I went through the questionnaire again. And I made it like, okay, you know what? I'm so sorry. I didn't record those numbers last time I asked you these things. Silly me. Could I ask you these questions again? Because, I didn't put them in the file and so on, so that it doesn't create any anxiety. And she said no. So that's when I was like, okay. So this is more like, take it as a snapshot, but see the full story. And if there are any other alarm bells, yes, then it's not for you. And I've had a alarm bell case in my view when I was like, no, this is not somebody that I can work with. I don't have that competence. They were recovering from addiction. And I said, okay, I can help with habits. That's why they were coming. But I don't feel like I have the foundation to really help you. So I've actually recommended that he knocks on Daniel's door and yours door and one of our supervisors, because I knew that you have more experience in that field. And I said to my client, I said, I'm so sorry. I wish I would be able to help, but it would be foolish of me to pretend that I'm the best in this field. So yeah.
And how did they take that? People worry about that referring on. They feel uncomfortable about referring on. We always get questions about that. How do you refer on?
I took inspiration from it's not you, it's me, the breakup thing. I said, look, I would absolutely love to help you with this particular thing that you came for help with. And I think we could do a good job, but it would be foolish of me to not recommend you to somebody who can do it better, quicker, faster, who knows, but with more experience. You have the decision. These are the people. These are their, email addresses, not email address, sorry, websites. Have a look. And then if you still feel like I'm the best person for you and you know what we've discussed, happy to chat to you again.
Interesting. Very nice. I like that. Very, very open, but good. So, my dog's bothering me here, sweetie. Show the attention. So let's go through. We'll go a few questions here.
Sure.
Because we've got 5 minutes before we get to 7:30, where I want to switch into looking at the case study. So,
sure.
One of the questions here, Fabienne, can you take her out, please? Because she's really a bit unsettled. Denise says here, sorry, Amber says, did you get all your clients via recommendations? Did you do marketing, any further marketing, particularly internationally?
Okay, no international marketing. When people find me, like most recently, a person living in China, I was genuinely stunned. I'd never targeted China. But that came through LinkedIn. They found me on LinkedIn, and that's how.
Interesting. Okay.
My most active platform is LinkedIn. But to put it very shortly, when I first started, the marketing I did was get your website in order, have some sort of a presence somewhere on social media, and then speak to as many people as you possibly can. That was my strategy because I didn't have a marketing budget. Yes.
Don't be shy.
I didn't have a marketing budget and I didn't feel comfortable in spending my own money. I can spend other people's. The beauty of working for others.
Interesting. But you're a professional marketer speaking as well. So somebody says here, hi Denise, Tara asks, did you get someone to build your website for you or did you do that yourself? And I'm going to ask, what platform did you use if you did it yourself?
I did it myself. I used WordPress. I'm still a big advocate of WordPress because you can always go in and change whatever you want. And I used WordPress has many tools. One of the tools is to build something is Elementor. So I used those two together.
Elementor, and one of the themes within Elementor. You brought the sort of
Correct.
Elementor set of themes and some of the tools are there. Okay.
Yes. And in terms of initial marketing, just to make sure that I answer fully the first question, it was probably a year and a half before I did any proper marketing, which I would put into what the proper marketing does. And that is because of my own baggage, in the sense that I can't do this because I didn't get this in order. I can't do Google Ads yet because my SEO is not on point. So in my own head, I was not very helpful. So yeah, I didn't do marketing straight ahead.
So let's go through some of those things in terms of the website functioning. You've got a lead capture on there now. I know you give something free away and people sign up. Did you have that at the beginning or did you add that later?
No, that was later. That was, as I said, probably a year and a half after the website was live.
Okay. Now I bet if I search for Joyspace or Denise Joyspace, you'll be number one. But how do you do?
In that combination, yes.
Surprise, surprise. But how do you do in terms of generally, your search engine optimization, people finding your website by searching? Is that something you focused on? Is that something that has paid off?
Being very critical, I haven't done it very well. There's room for improvement there. I think I've done it to 70%, the SEO. It can still be better. Has it paid off? Probably. Why? Because I also have been quoted in a lot of press. So when you look for my name and Joyspace, you get my website, but you also get the different articles in the different magazines. And
so how did that happen? You didn't chase that? You didn't do some, you could, I've got somebody who I can pay and he'll place me an article in Forbes. There's only a few people that can do that, by the way, but anyway.
Yes. I didn't pay. I didn't pay for that. It's what we call editorial. It's not promotional. So it's more about using different platforms such as Help a Reporter Out and putting out what we call e-news, helping reporters when they are writing their own materials. And, every month if somebody wants to write about stress or somebody wants to write about, and making sure that they think about, I think I spoke to that lady that does something like this. Let me ask her to prepare. And yeah, you write answers to different questions that they want to put in their articles. And
so making yourself known to the media and being very helpful and responsive to them. Yeah,
extremely, even on short deadlines. They love to ask you at 12 o'clock today if you can prepare something by 4. And you know that you only have the chance of one refusal, because then they will never come back to you and ask you.
Yeah. So there's a good book called Feeding the Media Beast, and that will get you. That's exactly what you're doing, right? It's a beast and you're there and you're like ready to give it something. Now, so did they find you, but was that particularly around also these aspects of you specializing in
100%.
stress and targeting women, professional women?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So that's another benefit of the specialization.
Yes. Yes. And this is where probably my previous network helps, because I was in that world with PR and so on. And when I shifted gears and I started writing more and more on LinkedIn and trying to be helpful from this point of view, then people reached out and, asked me to prepare something, or do you want to speak to so-and-so? They're writing an article and so on.
So let's find out. The different people said asking about your marketing channels. What channels you're using and relatively how effective are they? We've got search engine, people finding you, coming, getting onto your email list, and then maybe hanging around on your email list and send news out. There's that. Then there, and of course, direct inquiries from that. Then you've got the social media. In terms of organic social media, particularly LinkedIn, you've spoken of. Let me know if there are any others. Then you've got pay-per-click advertising. You've got PR. What else have we got? What have I missed? But I mean, can you give, is there anything else mixed there? And then give us a sort of relative picture of how those have worked for you. And networking, of course. Yeah.
Networking, I would start with that. Pay-per-click, I turn it on and off at the key moments in the year. I don't leave it on for the whole time, because that is, how long is a piece of string? You can spend all your money on pay-per-click.
You get a return on your advertising spend on pay-per-click.
Last time I did it, which was January of this year, yes.
But it sounds like there are other times, sometimes it hasn't worked. It's a bit
100%. And because I learn by doing, and as I was saying to you, getting in my own way quite a lot, as Mark Austin would say, it took me some time to get to what is working in terms of messaging and everything. By the way, I did work with Mark Austin after I graduated, and he was very helpful in getting my mind into, what niche are you going to do and so on and so forth.
Did you attend the free sessions we have there with him, or did you do some specialist one-on-one or a group thing with him that you paid for?
I did the free sessions.
Yeah.
Quite a few of those. And then once I started having income from my clients, I worked with him for 3 months in one of his, 4-pillar kind of market. What were the other 2? Business and plan, I think, where it takes you through the whole rationale of how would you do this, and gives you direction. I did that with him.
And that was, you felt that was a good, worthwhile.
Yes. It worked very well for me, because I like to know exactly where I'm where I am, and he's very straight to the point, which I also appreciate. So I don't like any of the going around the bushes for many times. Therefore, he was the right person for me. But definitely, I would say for all the students that are, thinking about opening a business, they should really take benefit from these free sessions. They were really, really good.
Yeah, he's quite a powerhouse. A bit quite direct, but it really helps you see where you're at a little bit, I think, and also see we're going to work out how to address some of these self-belief and confidence issues that I think is what undermines people so much and doesn't have them move ahead. So why I was asking you about that earlier. So now let's have a look at some of the questions here. Okay. He asks, are there any book recommendations that are worth reading prior to joining the course, 2 or 3 to learn what the course will be about? I'll let you answer that, Denise. What do you think?
I didn't have any materials before the course. I definitely enjoyed the books that were recommended during the course. And one of the books that I really like after the course was The Gift of Therapy. I wish I had it around me somewhere.
Victor Yalom, The Gift of Therapy.
Yes. That really helped me make more order in my therapist head. So that I would say it's a very good book as well, besides the ones that we have as part of the course.
What would you recommend reading anything beforehand? Or you can't really speak because that wasn't your experience.
It wasn't my experience. I think what I've read were testimonials from other students, what was written on different colleges' websites. What I was Googling a lot was, will this diploma be certified by anybody, or will it be printed at home by somebody called Jane? Those kinds of things were important for me, but
Okay.
I didn't do any psychology reading. I did psychology in my undergrad, but that was not to this level of psychology.
So here's the book I would recommend, because you'll be able to hypnotize yourself once you read it.
Oh yes, that's a very good one.
So that's a lovely, very easy to access, and you'll take you through exercises, and you'll hypnotize yourself to become a hypnotherapist. That's what I did. I didn't read that book though. I used a script, but now that's what I would recommend. And you'll come to the course like so much understanding it because it's right on our model. So Strategic Self-Hypnosis by Roger Strauss. Now, let's have a look. A few more questions before we get to your case study. Jerry Murphy says, Louise says, what is your main marketing channel? And I'm not sure I finished querying you about all the marketing channels with the relative contribution. And you mentioned LinkedIn as probably being the most important.
At this moment in time, most of my energy is spent there. I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram and TikTok. And Facebook is just there so that it doesn't exist. It's just there for SEO purposes, to be honest with you. But LinkedIn is my area. Why? It doesn't sit as great with me as it sits with other people. I'm referring to Instagram and TikTok. It's just, I don't know. There is something about it that it just doesn't make me happy. And I decided to move away from it. I tried for a long time to push myself to create content. I just decided that my audience lives on LinkedIn because they are looking for jobs, they're changing jobs, they're networking. Yes, they are probably cross-pollinating on the other channels as well, in the other platforms. But I would rather just do one thing. And I decided to do this one thing.
And the way it works and the style, I think, is different, perhaps. I mean, Instagram is a little bit more visual based, and TikTok's, whatever that is, a bit more buzzy. But LinkedIn is a little bit more considered, perhaps, in the format, we might say, and obviously professionally targeted more. I
think there are different platforms for different people and their styles. I don't think there is an age thing. I think it's a preference thing. I know therapists that are doing spectacularly well on Instagram and TikTok. Our own Harriet, she does extremely well on TikTok and others. So it's just not for me. And every time I open it with the purpose of I want to do something today here, is my reaction.
Okay, and how often do you post on LinkedIn?
At least 3 times a week.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. And so you would say, I mean, obviously building a good, I mean, if you had to give people advice, invest in doing a good website. What do you think?
I am torn about it. I would say either do no website or a good one.
No website, as in just try and just be on LinkedIn and have your profile.
For example, if you don't have the skills and you don't have somebody in your immediate vicinity that can help you create the website, or you don't want to go through self-training to build a website, then I would say don't do it at all. Focus your sharing your knowledge and your experience and helping people on another platform. Maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's Facebook, whichever platform works with you, and then get the money to build a very good website. I think it's very, maybe sad is not the right word, but there are some websites that just don't give any personality away. And I think that can be detrimental in the long run.
Yes, I think so. I think I know the other aspect is if is that enough in terms of do you need to have some kind of like, even if it's just a bit of a simple brochure website where people can see you and contact you and read your standard stuff, because or can you just use your LinkedIn or Instagram profile like that? I don't know. That's an interesting question.
You can definitely use your profile like that. And in this day and age, to be honest, you can do a lot of great things with platforms that are, for example, Flowdesk or what's the other one that comes to mind? Stan Store. There are different ways that you need to pay some money. Yeah. Sometimes you get for free for a period of time, where you don't need to be a creative guru. You just need to know what you're going to write and then use one of the templates. Squarespace is another one of those. And then you can create something. What I'm saying is, rather than creating something for the sake of having something, spend the time on doing it good in the background and be, happy with it and proud of it, while you are sharing your experience on something maybe low cost, such as LinkedIn or Instagram. Interesting.
I definitely agree with taking the time to do it properly. I mean, I think your website looks fantastic, by the way. I'm not sure.
Thank you.
I have some concerns about it. Let's just feature it again here before we switch over to the case study.
Yes, it doesn't expand very well on a very wide screen. So probably
I've kept it a bit smaller here. Let's keep it a bit smaller still. There we go.
Yes, so, that's the size. Yeah, that is normally. That's my work to do. You see, always I have something to do.
But I mean, it's you're here. I think, to me, I always say that's the most. It needs to be personal. It needs to be professional and personal and warm. People need to feel there's a real person here. And that certainly comes across here really nicely. I've always said the About Me page is the second most important page. Some people disagree. And here's all your social stuff. And then some social proof, what my clients say, immediately schedule a session or call, what I can help with. And then, your nice little sections here, and people can click on that and go in. It's lovely. So, and you built that in Elementor. And then here's the lead capture device for people getting... So
yes.
Can you get a free recording there now?
The recording link is at the top. This is just to be added to the newsletter. If they don't want anything for free at this moment in time, they just want to be added onto the email list, then they can do that.
There's grab your free sleep meditation. Nice. Book your intro.
Yeah.
Calls to action here, guys. Very, very nicely done. I don't know what this circle is that keeps moving around. It's like sort of...
It's on purpose. I like it. It's a personal preference.
Very good. Okay, lovely. So, and you've got different resources up here. You speak about your services here. So very benefit focused. And that's what we want, of course, an About Me blog. Let's just have a look at the About Me page. We said that was the most important one. I see and believe in you. I said that, believing in your clients. I said that needs to be in the mix in terms of the core conditions, I think.
100%. I remember that when you said it in one of the lectures.
Lovely. And what I offer, and great, why work with me? Very, very, very nice. And look, how much of you is here on this? Do we have a little video we can play? We don't. Look at that. We don't. We can't hear.
No.
We could travel all the way around the world. Well, we won't, because it's just by internet, and find out you've got the sort of voice we can't work with. But
yes, that's a very good point. It's been on my to-do list for quite some time. Luckily, you can download the meditation for free, and you can hear my voice if you don't like it.
Is it free sleep meditation? Now, you haven't led that strongly with hypnosis on here, have you? That's interesting.
I have started with the meditation side, because I feel that sometimes, not everyone, but some of the people need to be taken on a journey.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that. And also, well, and we had this discussion also about the term, but you don't even mention, CBT or things like that here. It's very just focused on the I'm sure if we click these articles, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But just in terms of at a high level here, we're not seeing you leading with all the fancy technology of what you do, but how you can help people, the problems they might have and how you can help people. I'm sure that's a pretty conscious choice as a marketer, right?
It was a conscious choice, and also thinking about my target audience with the type of people that I want to work with, my ideal clients, most of them want to be taken on a journey in the sense of meditation, hypnosis. Oh, you do? Oh, okay. So Hypno-CBT. And it's not a secret to any of them that I am a cognitive behavioral hypnotherapist. It's in my email signatures. It's in my email newsletters and everything else. But I don't tend to lead with that message. Rightfully or wrongfully, I'm thinking my target audience would prefer to know about it from me rather than reading it on the website and getting the wrong idea. Because hypnosis sometimes could be very
yes,
woo-woo.
Of course. People have got their different, ideas about it and their previous experiences around it. Okay, so Jerry says here, why did you set up a limited liability company, LLC? He's obviously looked to see that so you are running that as Joy Space Therapy as a limited.
It is limited, yeah. It's Joy Space Limited, the company, and I did it solely for the fact that I needed to have a business at a registered address. And at that moment, I was renting, and I couldn't use my home address as my work address, so I needed to get an accountant and have a registered address. And when I was speaking to the accountant, they said, well, it makes more sense to have a limited business, and gave me the pros and the cons of both. And I decided to go with an LTD because I was a PAYE at that time. So for those of you not in the UK, I was an employee in the UK. And it's much easier to be an employee and a director of a limited company than, being from a tax point of view. Being self-employed. At least that was what was described to me at that moment in time, and I decided to go with the LTD.
Okay, and the accounting fees are sometimes a little bit higher for limited companies than for self-employed, but they don't have to be that onerous anymore. And there are some other possible advantages. But in terms of also for your professional work, perhaps that looks, in terms of with professional women, perhaps that looks a little bit better. I don't know. Do you do any direct corporate work where you are getting paid?
That happened by accident once or twice, and it starts to I'm getting knocks on the virtual door with that, and I'm thinking I'm missing a trick. So that is definitely a direction that I want to take my business forward. It's not something I focused on, but it's for sure, and it's easier to do business to business. Yeah.
And are you VAT registered or not?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Tanya asked, how many clients do you have per week?
It varies. It varies between, I would say, 7 to 10. It varies. At the moment, with August being a holiday season, it tends to be more like 5 a week, but I also supervise students and I coach them, and I'm also trying to do other things on the side, such as promoting a retreat in Greece. So I'm juggling as many things as I can. Yeah. How
do you find that in terms of the, I think one of the sort of scary things, if you will, is the fluctuating amount of activity and therefore the fluctuating income, and the bookings are looking, it suddenly dropped off this week. And how do you handle that? How do you feel about that? I used to freak out quite a lot at the beginning, and then eventually I just learned to lie down and let it pass. Pretty much. I am as an investor, I'm on the very conservative side. So I don't particularly jump, as you can see with my decision to change from corporate. It took me a while. But initially I was like, ooh, this is going to be difficult, and so on and so forth. And I was getting hyped about it and thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do? But it's, again, the idea of I was repeating a story in my head.
somebody gave me a piece of advice to say that just change the story. Imagine you're having 3 new clients tomorrow and put them in, not tomorrow, next week, and put them in your calendar, like client 1, client 2, client 3. And I did that for a few weeks. Was it luck? Was it, I don't know, the universe, call it as you may. Next month I had 3 or 4 new clients. So I think it's a matter of how we are repeating that story to ourselves. And if we are sitting on our hands and do absolutely nothing, yes, the fear could become the reality, right? That nobody else is going to come. You can be the best kept secret in the world.
But you have something that you do. You can post more. You turn on your pay-per-click and a number
exactly
of things that you can get more active. And how many hours a week do you spend on marketing? That's just a question I've got.
At the minute is much more than normal because of the retreat I slightly pointed towards. So probably half of my time I spend.
That's marketing that retreat, yeah. But marketing your therapy business, marketing Joy Space. Typically,
probably about 10 hours a week.
Okay. Interesting. All right, good. Okay, so let's move on. There's some other questions here, but I want to come onto your case study. We can come back to these questions at the end if that's okay, Tanya and Amber. Let's have a look. You specialize in insomnia. You've taken the Hypno-CBT training. You did the Hypno-CBT for Insomnia workshop. I'm interested to see your case here and describe it to people. And so do watch, everyone, and do pop your questions in. Have you got that? You have it to hand there because you have some slides, I think.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes, that's very clear.
Okay, fabulous. So I'm going to make it as short as I can because I would like, questions or discussion with you, Mark. So I always start my line of thinking with what did I know prior to the assessment that I have with the client, because most of my clients knock on my door via a website inquiry or a LinkedIn or a phone call. So I speak to them for a few moments before I really speak to them, if that makes sense. I always offer the introductory call for about 15 to 20 minutes for free because I want to sense check that we can work together. So that's why my first question there on the left is, what did I know? What did I learn in the assessment? And what did my client want? Those are the questions that I have at the forefront of my mind. So what did we know about this particular client? Pre-assessment, so mother of adult children in her 50s, struggling with insomnia for many years. At the time she phoned, she started going through a divorce proceedings in a high demanding job. She self-assessed that she struggles with anxiety and worry, and she told me she's taking sleep medication from the GP. On that, this was a 20-minute conversation on the phone. So as part of that, I agreed that yes, we could work together if she's happy and I'm happy. And I told her a little bit about my approach, and then she said yes. Let's schedule the first call, the first consultation, and I sent her the sleep diary over email. And I said, okay, before I see you for the first time, could you please start gathering some data? Data for me is very important. I always try to make it fun. And I always say that, look, we as humans, we tend to be subjective. So let's put it down on paper and make sure that whatever you think is happening, we can see it backed up with data. 1 week later, we had the assessment. And during the assessment, it became quite clear that her main symptoms were difficulty falling asleep, but also staying asleep. So what she was describing to me was that I fall asleep after 40 minutes of lying there in bed, and then I sleep for about an hour and a half. I wake up and I don't fall asleep again. So due to that, obviously, you can imagine daytime fatigue. She was struggling with brain fog and irritability, and driving was provoking massive anxiety. So this was something that came out of left field in my head because I was imagining we will only be talking about sleep and things like that. We also discussed her sleep history in detail. So I did an insomnia severity index, which is SII there at the bottom, which scored quite highly. And then a health and lifestyle assessment, psychological evaluation. So these were her initial scores of PHQ-9 and GAD-7, which put her in the moderate bracket of both depression and generalized anxiety. However, I personally didn't believe there are many things in terms of depression, because she was telling me, I get up and go, I look after, my household, I don't stay at home. So some of the things I was like, okay, you said yes, or you said this happens quite a lot, this and this from the assessment questions, but I couldn't find the evidence, right, that it was actually depression, or that it is moderate depression. I did repeat the exercise, the PHQ-9 and GAD-7. I think it was in session 5 or 6 with her, just to sense check, and they were changing. Anyway, in this assessment session, we also agreed on goals. And again, I was imagining that insomnia will be on the first one, most important for me. Actually, gain skills to cut off worry and anxiety. It was the first thing that she said. And then we were digging and as to how we would be measuring success. What does it mean to cut off anxiety, cut off worry? What does it mean to be able to drive without feeling anxious? All of these goals in my head, they need to be measurable and they need to be achievable, so that we can work with them and measure success in a few sessions time. And then she mentioned improving her time management skills because of the overwhelm from work, and then insomnia. So during that assessment, my mind was very puzzled.
Yeah, but that's so, let me ask you a few questions about, that's so interesting that the first thing she put is, realizing that the issue here is really about the worry and the anxiety, and that's the most important thing for her to be able to manage it and gain skills. And then the driving. So yeah, that's interesting. The last thing there on her list is manage the insomnia.
Are we okay? Yeah. I'm just gonna cook while I'm listening to it.
Hold on, someone's got a microphone on there.
But I need to start the cooking. Okay.
Hang on, somebody can mute.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, fantastic. So, yeah, that's interesting there, Denise. And I just got another couple of questions here just on the assessment. The sleep medication. So, generally, is that something short-term she just got, and therefore was this an issue that had just come up? Because GPs don't tend to give it long-term, but there again, I've just met somebody that's on quite long-term benzodiazepines from the GP. So usually they don't give the sleep medication. I imagine that's something like Zopiclone. But what was the medication issue, and how chronic was this, or how much was this something that had just sort of peaked recently as an issue? She gone to the GP.
It wasn't recent that she got the medication from the GP. She was actually getting repeat prescriptions, and I think it was Zolpidem, something like that.
So how long had you been on that?
At least a year and a half.
Wow. So there's some, it's not there's no, everyone should know, there's no substance addiction to Zopiclone, but there can be quite a severe psychological addiction in terms of feeling highly dependent on it and scared to come off it, right?
To be honest, she wasn't taking it every night. So I have to say this. It wasn't part of her everyday routine. She was saying, I will go without sleep for 3-4 nights. And then if tomorrow is a very important day at work, I will take one so that I can sleep. So it wasn't something that, I don't know if there was a level of addiction there or a level of habituation, but she was only using it on rare-ish occasions. It was still weekly, but it wasn't on a every night type of
Yeah, that has its own issues as well when people are using it like that, because they tend to get, and then they take it works, and they have no problem sleeping, and then it works, and so
yes,
the sort of reinforcement that goes on.
Yeah, insomnia was an issue for quite a number of years in the way that she was describing it to me. So it was a problem way before everything else with the work and things like that. But she was always very good at coping with a few hours of sleep. This was my hypothesis, that those many sleepless nights have caught up with her at some point, Also, because in my mind, when I was doing the assessment, I was thinking maybe there is a perimenopause or menopause going on, because that we know affects the sleep.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that as part of my assessment as well, and conceptualization. And there is a pain here in this part of my body, or have you gone to the GP? Yes, I have. So that's why I mean, when I said I was taking the health and lifestyle assessment, because I was trying to understand where is insomnia coming from, or which are the factors that are maintaining it, or if insomnia in its own right became a cause of everything else. So I was just building. That's why I was. What did I learn? I was like building information.
Yeah. So there is the issue of what sort of might cause a sleeping problem like insomnia, which could be, for example, menopausal hot flushes, something like that, or it might be a chronic cough or pain or noisy neighbor or baby or something like that. But then the issue is, if is the insomnia then being maintained because of worries and changes in behavior and things like that. And even once that thing goes, the cough goes, the pain goes, the person. So it's a very important. Insomnia is quite a complex assessment, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, because I see it as a cause and a symptom at the same time.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, in many of my clients, I see it as both, and I think when they also see it as that, it's a little bit easier to do the cognitive restructuring bit around sleep and insomnia, versus when they see it as I'm an insomniac. It's part of who I am. That is very difficult to shift.
Yes, it is. I had somebody who'd written quite a long book about being an insomniac, and she was very difficult to work with. She really identified with it. And what she would be if she let go of that is just a question she couldn't really get to. But just a few things. Does anyone have any questions here about there's some terms here. Sleep diary. Do you want to do a quick explain on that? I was trying to find one to show people quickly, but I couldn't find one.
It's actually in your workshop.
Yeah,
I took
why can't I find it in my? I know what one is. But
I did the simplified version of that, and it has 4 columns. Again, not to over complicate things for the clients at the beginning, it has 4 questions, and they need to fill it in when they wake up. How did I sleep? Is how, in the sense of I slept well, good, bad, however. How many hours do I think I slept? And they have to give their best estimation. And then is, how do I feel this morning? And the last question is, what are the thoughts going through my mind?
Oh, okay.
So I'm just asking these.
That's quite a simplified version. Yeah. I'm like, I want all the data.
I love to get all the data. And initially I used a little bit more, I don't want to call it data gatherer, but it was more meat on the bone for me as a therapist. But the level of them actually doing it every day, it wasn't the best. So I said, what if I make it very simple? And then when I ask them about the homework, I can fill in the gaps of what I'm missing.
Yeah. No, well, throughout this, the issue of compliance and the client being motivated in terms of compliance is, I think, a key factor right at the start. And then the other things you have mentioned here, PHQ-9, GAD-7, maybe we can pop something up quickly on that. So does everyone know what that is? I imagine there's people here that probably don't, because it's a bit, it's a tool that was developed by, I think, Pfizer for research, and then is now generally available for doing very nice sort of initial quick assessments. Let me see if I can just share that quickly so people can see that.
Should I stop sharing?
I can take over. I have the power.
Okay.
So here's a PHQ-9, which measures 9 questions, the scoring for depression, and GAD-7, generalized anxiety disorder, that's essentially measuring for anxiety. And sometimes you use the phobia scales, but mostly we're using those. And then there's some directions here in terms of scoring, in terms of things being non-mild, moderately severe, and particularly on the depression scores. I'm not so concerned about the anxiety scores. Sometimes those can change very rapidly, but the depression scores are more of concern, I think, when you're working. But that's only one part of the whole thing. And you have another questionnaire, the ISI, which is a insomnia severity. I won't call that up right now, but just there's, when you take the training, you're going to get some tools to work with that guide then your decision making and how you proceed. And without those, you'd just be sort of swimming in a sort of sea of porridge, I think, somehow.
I found a version of my
Lovely.
sleep diary. So it's how many hours did you sleep? How do you feel? What did you do to get to sleep? I think I confused this question earlier. And then any sensations or thoughts.
Yeah. So it's sleep diary is regarded as just essential to gather start to gather some information in a more systematic way than person saying, oh, my sleep's terrible.
Yes, you will see on the next slide that this particular client had a very particular way of describing her sleep.
Okay, fantastic. So let's proceed. Let me. I see some questions building here, but let's get the full picture here before we come to these questions.
Yeah. Before I go to the next slide, I just wanted to show this because this is again part from the CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, and it's part of Mark's training as well for Hypno-CBT for insomnia, and it's just what happens in terms of what are the things keeping the insomnia alive, if you'd like. So you have dysfunctional cognitions, which are, worrying and thoughts coming in, rumination about something, the maladaptive habits, which could be excessive time in bed, or it could be that they are doing, all the bedtime scrolling, doomsday scrolling, as I sometimes call it, and that obviously affects the way they sleep. The consequences, so the next day, how do they feel? What is happening with their performance and arousal? It could be emotional, cognitive, psychological. What keeps them awake, basically, if they are waking up in the middle of the night. So this, I just wanted to share it as a, idea.
Interesting. Everybody noticed the arrows go everywhere.
Yeah.
Right, both circular, both directions, but also across, and also some interesting things here like misattributions and amplifications or unrealistic expectations. Do you want to speak to that?
I would.
Yeah.
The one that I tend to see the most is catastrophizing, where everything gets amplified, and misattributions, especially for somebody who is in work. Something happens during work because they are not in the best frame of mind when that happens, or when some colleague tells them, a sentence, they misrepresent, they misattribute it, they see it as a me thing rather than maybe something that had to do completely outside of their person. So it's quite it's a mix there, and unrealistic expectations is something along the lines of, so I want to speak to a therapist and sleep well tomorrow.
8 hours of perfect sleep, please.
Yes,
that's what I want. Yeah.
Yes, I want to sleep all in one go. Okay, did you ever sleep like that? No, but I want it now. So those kinds of unrealistic expectations.
So, I mean, and there are some other factors we could put in here as well. I see and I see it in myself. Attentional bias towards sensations of fatigue. So sort of my attention has got trained just to notice how tired my eyes feel or how achy my shoulders are. And it's like I can barely focus on other stuff sometimes because that's just sucking my attention each time because I've done it so much. And I think it's so important.
That is, I think, one of the reasons why we have sleep diaries, either in a shorter format or in a a more comprehensive way, because we tend to be subjective as people.
Yeah, definitely. So okay, so that's the sort of picture there. Yeah, the general conceptualization, and then okay.
So my conceptualization was based on the priority that I've received from the client, right? So because she said that worry and not being able to cope and anxiety and so on is her number one. Yes, I have split that between number 1 and 2 on this particular slide, but I built my conceptualization around the priorities that she was giving me as well, because I felt like if she said that these are the number one for her, I need to start there and address those first, because otherwise our working alliance might suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Then we obviously number two, anxiety in driving, and this particular driving was becoming a hindrance because she wasn't driving to work as often as she was, and she needed to drive to work. So the things in bold that you see there, those were in her own words. So I'm unable to cope, or I'm not a good driver. Number three, my sleep is diabolical. Number four is who has the luxury of relaxing. So what I was trying to build here was to utilize as much of her own language and experience to build my conceptualization and hypothesis of what is actually happening, how these things are interlinked, and how should we start tackling them in a way, one by one, but at the same time, nothing is in isolation of the other. So seeing them also as coming together.
And there's an impact here with the driving. This is actually having a kind of a functional impact on her life. And what were the worry concerns here in terms of I mean, habits and things, but what was, I mean, job worries? I mean, because she's put that as number one, and I'm wondering about that, if there's some concern about the job or something like that there. Yeah.
There wasn't a concern about the job itself. It was worry about everything. I asked her at some point to make a list of worries, and she had at least, I think, 20 things on that list off the cuff. She was worried from what will I be cooking tomorrow, but not in a thinking like, oh, what should I cook? It was more like worrying about it for 3 hours of what best food and how to do it and which way to do it.
Interesting. Okay.
And from that, it was also worrying about climate change and where the world is going, and a neighbor that was in ill health. So the worrying was quite generalized. That's why I said constant worrying.
Fruitless, not able to get to a decision about things by the sounds of it. So not solving problems. Yeah.
Yes, there was a lot of worrying, and then there was problem solving. There were many layers to this particular assessment and conceptualization. What I learned was that the person in front of me had a lot of skills, a lot of truth of when she did cope, she did good driving, she was able to sleep and all of that. But then destabilizing factors over the years made her question everything, and almost like did that actually happen? Was it me when I was driving up and down the M25? Oh yes, it was me. So it was like, oh, I need to think about that, but I did do it. So I was thinking, okay, you have the backstory to confirm that you are good at driving, for example. We just need to bring that back to the surface. We just need to improve self-efficacy, allow the chatter up here to go a little bit quieter, or to put distance between yourself and your thoughts, for you to be able to actually say, I did this. I know how to do it. I have the time management skills. I just need somebody to refresh my memory.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's interesting. We're a client that is actually resourceful and has sort of experience of competencies and strengths, but is kind of not focusing on those right now. And I think that the market you've chosen there in terms of working with professionals, that one does tend to find that, I think, that then, yeah.
Yes, that I tend to call them mini earthquakes. Something happens, it stabilizes the system, and then you start questioning a lot of things. Yeah. The thing about sleep, as I said to you, I was surprised that it was not number one. I was surprised that it was so down on the list. And I was surprised that although she was referring to the term, I am an insomniac, when I was asking other questions, you could see the shift in the conviction. So that made me think, this is a recent story that you started telling yourself.
About the insomnia.
Because I could see her demeanor and her, face change when she was saying that compared to other beliefs about herself. Right. And then we went into the treatment plan. So I highlighted here 4 of our sessions, as in the first 4 sessions. So session 0, if you'd like, would have been the assessment. And I left that session with Leaves on a Stream as a recording for her to do homework, in order to put that space between the chatter that she said she constantly has in her mind. I call it the washing machine of thoughts. I said, let's put the brakes a little bit, and brought in mindfulness and breathing from the get-go, in order to have a habit to practice constantly when it was driving related. This wasn't very difficult for this person to do. She already had, as I said, many resources. She just needed to be reminded of them, and then starting calling them what they were, because she was practicing them to some extent, but not really. And in the session after that, we did ego strengthening and relaxation. I gave that as a recording as well. And it was something that throughout the sessions, she was coming back and saying, oh, yes, I've done that, and it felt good. For me, I should have said this. Every assessment has 3 parts. The first part is where I gather all the data, all the many questions that they need to answer. The second part is the goals. We agree on goals. How are we measuring them? What will success look like? How will they feel when they achieve it? How will they think? How will they look like? And everything. And then the last part of the assessment, for me, it's always giving you something. So I don't want them to take part in the assessment thinking, oh my God, I gave all of my life story, but now I wait until next week. So it's either Leaves on a Stream or an intro to hypnosis, like depending on the time we have, it's like in and out, or as in induction, emerging, or a little bit of mindful breathing, or it might be just imagining you're in a relaxation ball and it's a beautiful color, anything that I can work with. So when they leave this first session with me, they feel like they've done something, they've learned something, and it's not just
they'll have an experience with you. You will introduce this, they'll have an experience with you in the session, and you'll give a recording. You're not just giving them a handout and a recording. No.
Okay. It's part of the part of the session. In this case, it was Leaves, as we discussed it in the first assessment, and we did a short version of Leaves because I also need to test how good they are imagining, how relaxed do they feel about relaxation, whether they use relaxation as a avoidance-seeking behavior or not. So all of these things are flying in my head, and I'm thinking, okay, this is where I'm testing you without you knowing that you're being tested.
And describe for people very briefly Leaves on the Stream, because that's a term we use for quite a well-known exercise, but other people might not know it.
Yes, it's a very well-known ACT exercise, as in acceptance commitment therapy exercise, where it's a cognitive diffusion. So instead of fusion between your thoughts, it's diffusing them, allowing them to have a little break in between. And you're imagining that this is the very short, abridged version. You're imagining a tree, that it has leaves, the leaves are falling, thoughts are coming to your mind. You take the thought, you put it on a leaf, and you let it go with the water. And it can be with leaves, it can be with clouds, it could be with counting sheep if you want. That doesn't make it more or less effective. It's the principle of taking the thought out of your mind, let's say, and putting it on something and allowing it to pass without you having to make a judgment on the thought, having to engage with the thought. It's more about, okay, so what? I have this thought, it's fine. Let it go for now. In this particular moment in time, it can just wash away. It will come back if it's an important thought.
Okay, good. And ego strengthening, so you're using some hypnosis there in the first session as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I am a Hypno-CBT therapist. That's what I do. That's what maybe it's not the singing and dancing on the front page of my website, but that is definitely part of who I am and about me and my profession today. So we did do that. I knew already that she has a very good imagination, so it was quite easy to do that. She was prepared. I said tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, but next week, we're going to do hypnosis. So make sure you have water, you have a blanket, you have something in case you want to relax. You can sit in your chair, you can lie down, and given all these options. So it was preparing my client for what she was going to experience. And ego strengthening is about boosting your ego in a very kind, relaxed way. I really love that particular way of introduction to hypnosis.
It's kind of like you've been talking, and we can talk about, the story we've got and the story that would be better to have. And it is one of the more sort of just a general story of things getting better and how strong you actually really are. And so it's a general story of sort of resilience and well-being, and getting that story back in. Okay, let's continue. Don't let me talk.
Yes, but skills training. Now you will see this homework check, progress report, feedback. This would be part of each and every session. Homework check is, have you done it? Have you listened to the recording? Yes, no. How many times? How did you find it? All of this information in order to understand whether it's helpful or unhelpful. A progress report is, and how do you feel about the driving? Oh, I was able to drive much easier today on the M4. Oh, really? And how did that make you feel? So very shortly going into a progress report. And feedback. Feedback doesn't come from me, is feedback from the client. So yeah, last time when we did this so-and-so, was that the most helpful I could have been for you in that session? Would you have changed anything? Sometimes some of my clients feel like, ooh, I'm on the spot now, I have to say something. Other times they are like, I'm not really sure. And then I come back really quickly and say, that's fine. You don't have to give me an answer now. It's just as we are developing our working relationship, it will be good also for you to share with me how you felt, or maybe the metaphors I used were, I don't know, not very helpful for you, or maybe they were. It's feedback coming from them towards whatever we were doing in the session. And then we continued with relaxation skills training, practicing more and more how it is to feel relaxed, and without hypnosis, being able to relax the shoulders, relax, your head and your jaw whenever you want to relax, and you can practice it wherever you are, even if you're at your desk.
And that's muscle tension release particularly, yeah?
Yes, progressive muscle relaxation, a short abbreviated version of it. And in this particular session, we proceeded with Stein's clenched fist, which is another hypnosis exercise, because she was particularly going through certain solicitors meetings that were making her feel in certain ways. So
yes, the divorce. Yes.
Because I asked about the feedback of previous week, and she said, yeah, this was all great. However, next week I'm gonna have this and this happening, and I have these feelings about it. I think when you allow your client to give you feedback, you also open the door to them taking the reins of the sessions. Obviously, we don't want them to be necessarily becoming the therapist, but in a way we do. That's what I always say. I want to be out of business. I want you to, come as a client, me to help, and then you to go and live your life. So when I see that happening, and in this case, she mentioned it, preparation for a upcoming situation, I was like, yeah, sure, let's do that. If that is most helpful for you today, let's do that.
Okay. So you a bit of adaptation in the moment to some current challenges that she got that were coming up, and this is a wonderful technique for that. Wonderful.
Yes, for that, thank you. I do believe that, and I knew she could imagine, because I already had previous experience, right? I knew she could be very aware of whatever she was feeling and how to think about things. Then we moved into more. I wouldn't say pure, but more CBT type focus, in identifying challenging, negative sleep thoughts. She was referring to sleep as diabolical. So I was like, okay, how else is your sleep? So all of the language that she's using for different things, and also encouraging for all of that to be kept in a thought diary. We started it in session, and then she had it as in between sessions. I call it homework for lack of a better word, but it's practice, it's habit building, it's data gathering. And at this moment in time, I was challenging via Socratic questioning some of the thoughts and attitudes to thoughts, but I wasn't going into cognitive restructuring. I was taking it basically first step, identifying, becoming aware of what are all of these thoughts. And because she's already been practicing leaves for at least 3 weeks, it was much easier for her to tell me which are the thoughts that are showing up. And then
was she able to recognize those? Because was she able to recognize that those were unhelpful? Because some people have, I must sleep 8 hours, and then it takes a while for them to realize that that's quite an unhelpful thought.
at this moment in time, for me, the number one goal was to gather them, to capture them. Doesn't matter if they feel helpful or unhelpful. Very few of them I've challenged. I challenged more the language used to describe the thought than the thought itself, because wrongfully or rightfully, I'm taking more of the mindfulness approach, in the sense that you need to be present with that moment of the thought or the emotion to understand it, become aware of it, and then change it. That's what I thought it was best in this case.
Just sometimes as clients are becoming aware of them and sort of writing them down in thought diary, they start to see, well, I can see, they get the conceptual cognitive, they can see, well, I'm being really unhelpful the way I'm talking to myself,
Exactly. That is the ultimate goal, but I want them to go on that discovery journey with themselves. Yeah. I asked them from the day dot to become their own best detectives. I say, put your detective hat on, imagine you know nothing, and go looking and see what we find out. And this is what I put at the bottom of the slide, is keeping the sleep diary continues. And for me, data gathering is fun, and curiosity is a word. So how did you feel about X, let's say? I felt so and so. Oh, wow. Well done you for being curious. It's always something that I'm rewarding with any of my clients.
I think that's wonderfully skillful. Rewarding curiosity and prompting curiosity. That's great.
Thank you. And then time management, because she said, I'm all over the place with my work, and I have so many hours in the day, and I have to do X, Y, and Z. And I said, okay, so what are you, worried about in terms of time management? And we did the good old fashioned problem solving or brainstorming, where she, said everything she would like to do. And I said, well, is that realistic? Because you wake up at 8, you do this before 9 o'clock. And then we literally did it in a few minutes, like the whole 24 hours of the day. It's like, oh, of course, I can't do all of it because I don't have time. So then we started thinking how to block time in her diary, what will be most helpful in order to do some of the things that are on her to-do list. And between these session 3 and session 4, the thought diary was what she was taking away, and obviously the sleep diary. I work in building blocks. So I say we are building a new house. This is the foundation, and we are just building the foundation. Once we build the foundation with leaves on the stream, and it becomes part of the thing that you can rely on and you can do, then we are building some of the walls. We build the walls, we put the roof, and so for me everything kind of goes. And when they skip ahead many steps, I go back and it's like, okay, now you're decorating inside, we are not there yet. Let's come back to
I like that. So this, people sometimes I say they want to go out and play Carnegie Hall. You've just shown them something simple. It's like, let's just stay with that and build slowly. Yeah.
So in this 4th session, it was about sleep, particularly. So what has she learned about her sleep by now? How she's seen the thoughts, and how are they affecting the sleep? Any correlations? Again, everything starts with homework, check, progress report, feedback, and then sleep hygiene. So she knew a lot about sleep hygiene. A lot of people struggling with sleep for a long time, they know a lot about sleep hygiene, but they know it, but they don't do it. So that's where we were trying to put them two together. And we agreed on one thing that she can do. So for those of you not knowing, sleep hygiene is a plethora of behaviors you have around around sleep. It's your environment where you're sleeping, is whatever you're thinking about sleep. So those 3, in my mind, they form the sleep hygiene, not just the behaviors. So what do you do? When do you take the shower? When do you go to bed? And so on. And trying to say, okay, you have to shift it completely, works for some people, not for everyone. So I am like, okay, what is the easiest of all of the things we discussed? What is the easiest thing that you can do right here, right now, from tonight? Oh, I can leave my phone to charge in the next room. Fabulous. We do that. And only that. Because the more you have, oh, and I should do this, and Denise told me to do that, and I have to write it here, and that's how I would feel as a person. So I'm thinking, okay, let me try with one, and if they come back and report, you know what, I did that, I'm nailing it every time, every day, I'm like, okay, cool, you can do 2 or 3, because I know that you're, this type of client, so to say, or this type of person.
Yeah. Or whether, okay, very good. I like that.
And cognitive restructuring regarding the sleep language, the inner story, the inner dialogue, that was very, very important.
So well, give a bit more sense of that, and also how was the client doing through all of this? Was she sleeping 8 perfect hours, or what?
No.
What
So I am still seeing the client. At this moment in time, she's an active client of mine, and she has provided consent to be described as a case study today. She has stopped the tablets, the sleeping tablets. They haven't been part of her recent weeks. And I think she stopped them from week 1. So after the assessment, where I have here relaxation, she already decided to put them on, the back burner, and then move them away from the bedroom, and then move them away from that other room, so that they become out of sight, out of mind, somewhere in a very hidden cupboard. Sleeping wise, she is able to fall asleep by herself without having to rely on the medication, and also without having to rely on something very regimented. She's at the point where if she has a hot bath, she's a bath type of person, she takes a hot bath, she's able to put her devices away after that. She's able to do the insomnia hypnosis recording. So it's a hypnosis script adapted for insomnia. And then she will drift off. So it doesn't take her a long time to fall asleep. If she does wake up in the night, she actually became a person that has 2 sleeps. So she does wake up and she's wide awake for about 2 to 3 hours. She's no longer waiting in bed for the moment when she will fall asleep. She knows that she needs to get out of the bed, do whatever she can do at that time in a relaxing, soothing manner, and then she will come back for second sleep. So she's the type of person that sleeps in 2 chunks, if you would like. 2.5 hours the first chunk, and about 4 hours the second chunk. And it's a working in progress. That's where the cognitive restructuring was happening, because she was expecting to sleep all in one. And I said, well, what if it's split? And I gave the example of before technology, when we were, in the Middle Ages, we didn't have technology and we didn't have electricity. So we went to bed with the sunset, we slept, and then we would wake up, visit each other's houses at midnight, and then sometime after that, we would go back to sleep. So it's not extremely unusual. So in this way works for her.
Changing expectations and creating acceptance around these things, and fantastic. And what, just in terms of her sleep latency onset, that means for everybody how much time it takes for her to fall asleep. That has changed then.
Initially, it was like 45 minutes. We're currently treading about 20.
Okay.
We're in between 15 to 20 minutes at the minute.
And then not hanging around in bed if she wakes up feeling restless and just.
That was the most difficult thing to do. Yes, that was definitely the most difficult thing. She's able to get herself out of bed if she doesn't fall asleep in what feels like half an hour. I said that is the cutoff point. You've tried, you've been, let's go.
Yeah. No frustration in bed. Happy time.
No. It's extremely important that the bed is only used for two purposes, one being sleep, the other one being relations with your partner or with yourself. So if it doesn't fit in those boxes and you are there for more than 20, 30 minutes, get out.
Happy, pleasant times in bed. Yeah, I don't want to, because I think this association with the bed with struggle, I think
Yes.
and generally, I'm more and more of the struggle with sleep, the struggle with tiredness itself. I think is really interesting in terms of, rather than just enjoying fit. Hey, I'm lovely and tired. Isn't that wonderful? Oh no, I'm tired. And like fighting the tiredness. Enjoy feeling. It's lovely to feel tired when you can relax. So it's very interesting, their relationship with that. I think it's more
Yes,
and more I look at that.
or I was drifting on and off, but I don't think I slept. Well, did you sleep? So all of these kind of this is unrelated to this particular case study, but I had a different person that came to me saying, I don't sleep at all. And I said, never? No, I don't sleep for weeks. And there is a condition that is quite dangerous where people genuinely don't sleep. But this particular person was holding a job and being a physical trainer and, interacting with her children. So I was thinking, okay, there is some sleep somewhere.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
it was a lot of misrepresentation of those light period of sleeps that she was perceiving them as I'm awake. But yeah,
the sleep misperception. Yeah, that's right. I think I tell the story of somebody who actually fell asleep during the initial assessment session when we did a little bit of relaxation, and slept quite steeply for about 20 minutes, and then I woke her up and said, no, I wasn't asleep. No, I wasn't asleep. It's just fascinating. So wow, that's just, let me ask about the driving though. How did that work out with her? I couldn't see that in terms of the driving anxiety.
we didn't have to go back to it after session 2.
Really?
Notice 3
She solved
things was part of her every day. Whenever she was going towards the car and touching the handle to open the door, before she did that, notice 3 things. So, this feels metallic under my hand. Doesn't have any smell. Doesn't, using all your senses. Oh, the sky is, I don't know, cloudy today, and there are a few. No, there's no sun. Oh, okay. And something else. So notice 3 things became her modus operandi when it came to I'm getting out of the house to go to the car. And she was always grounding herself in that moment, and then breathing. Breathing was also very, very helpful. Box breathing. That's the one that she practiced the most. So we didn't have to go back to it because it felt like a very huge, important thing at the time of assessment. Yeah. But after practicing it, and obviously she needed to drive every day, so there was a lot of practice.
But I mean, a couple of things there. One, so she's able to self-regulate with the breathing.
Yes.
And therefore manage the anxiety a lot. But also you have this external mindfulness, which is both an attention training to what's really important, the external environment. For driving, that's really important rather than what's going on inside you. And also a diffusion from the thoughts when she's noticing the world around her. So very, very elegant little technique that's most appropriate there for driving, because you want people noticing this stuff around them, not what's going on inside when they're driving. So good. Wow, great. So fantastic. I love that. Let's have a look through here and see some questions we've got. I just want to have the last one here, the first, which was Fiona. Fiona messaged me this privately. I said, please share it. So she says, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. You're an inspiration, Denise. Most grateful. You are amazing. I love your fun and playful approach. And she says, wow, I've been a chronic insomniac, have been for years. So fantastic. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, isn't that lovely? So let's just go back here at the beginning here. Let's look at particularly on the cases here. Katerina says, I'm wondering if I can help people that experience insomnia as a symptom without having extra training on insomnia.
How would you be able to determine that it is a symptom? That would be my first question, because I don't see it as so clear cut. And okay. I think there is a need to understand insomnia, and whether it's, onset on, as in you're not able to fall asleep to begin with, or if it's awakenings in the night, which type it is. Yeah, I think they are so connected, insomnia and stress, or our autonomic nervous system response. They are so best friends in the worst way, that it would be very difficult, I think. I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
I think at first you're saying that really to work with insomnia, you do need to do a little bit of specialist training, and that just needs to be a workshop probably, and get a couple of good books, because they are your resource. Yeah. So, but apart from that, I think, we're talking about primary or secondary insomnia. So secondary insomnia, where insomnia is a result of pain, chronic cough, something else, physical, organic kind of problem. So there's that. And obviously in some things like sleep apnea, we have to treat the sleep. We don't treat the insomnia. We've got to make sure the sleep apnea. And if it's chronic pain, or cough, these things need to try to be attended to before we work. So generally we're talking about primary insomnia, where insomnia, but that could co-present with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, other mental health disorders perhaps, or substance use. If it's substance, you've got a problem, because, in terms of the substances driving, for example, the insomnia, whether it's nicotine, it's a big contributor to insomnia. And so you're going to tackle
alcohol can be
alcohol, and the use of alcohol to, but to
fall asleep. Yeah,
to fall asleep. So you have to make a decision there. These things are not separate, they're interconnected. And which thing to treat first, So can you, if you're not trained in post-traumatic stress disorder, help somebody with insomnia? I don't see why not. There'll be a lot of good stuff that goes on with that, a lot of traction on actually. And the other thing to say about this is things like post-traumatic stress disorder. The modern thinking isn't that this is a thing that's generating symptoms of insomnia. Yeah. The modern thinking is that the presentation is an interactive set of symptoms that are all interacting with each other. Yeah. And so it is called a network model. So we don't think there's something generalized anxiety is creating the insomnia. Insomnia is part of worry and tension and irritability and fatigue, and it's a network, as Denise showed in that diagram there, but perhaps the network aspect of how the symptoms interact with each other. And so the choice for us is, well, which of these sort of sets of symptoms do we target? And in a certain way, whichever one you target is going to change the whole network if you can get progress on that. So, for example, I wouldn't choose weight loss as a central target necessarily, because it's going to take time for me to get, unless that really is central, it's going to take time for me to get progress on that, as opposed to changing nail biting or insomnia or assertiveness, something I know I can probably get some traction on within a few sessions. I don't know if does that make sense to you, Denise?
It does make sense. So the one thing I wanted to add on that particular question is that if you have a client who identifies themselves as an insomniac, and you can, as a therapist, think, okay, that is a direct symptom of the way they are thinking, right? Of their belief system.
So, yeah.
Okay, that would be a clean cut, so to say. But then you have all of the anxiety or stress or worry that comes together in a package with changing the core belief, I am an insomniac. So then which one is the one that is maintaining the insomnia? The thought or the anxiety around changing the thought? So you would come back into, as Mark was describing, into interconnection, because unfortunately it's not so clear cut.
Yeah.
It's always a judgment call. Which one should I tackle first? Sometimes it's the stress is maintaining the insomnia. Let's focus on stress management first. Fine. But it's not as clean cut, at least not in my experience. And yes, I didn't do this for 30 years. So maybe I'll have a different opinion later. But
I think there are a number of different starting points. I think that's what we could say. And being choiceful about that is something that comes with experience, but there's no way for anybody to say there could have been a better starting point, because each case is individual and you only get one choice to start it. So it's, you what you have to do is just bring the best you can to it, and involve the client. I think ask the client, where do you think we should start? Because the client's motivation and compliance and willingness is central, I think, and really important. And so, yeah, involving. And if they choose something that's kind of, you think, okay, that's not maybe, then we can talk about that, But I think, as Denise does there, giving them some initial self-regulation skills right at the start, mindfulness of breathing, observe leaves on the stream, relaxing the muscles, some self-hypnosis, some starting point where they got a tool they can use. That starts to bring the change. I think self-efficacy, I would say, tracking on self-efficacy is the central thing, might be the most important.
Yeah, I think, just to summarize in maybe a sentence, my approach, I'm a sprinkler of doubt and a grower of hope. Because I want you to have the doubt that things can change, in the sense that you might not believe they can change, but you have a, is this it? Is this the way my whole life is going to be? I'm always going to be in this path. So if I can do that from the first moment I meet somebody, and then grow hope in the sense of either using resilience from their own experience, or, sharing something that I may have gone through and I think is appropriate for them, such as I have struggled with insomnia myself. Those kinds of things, just to sprinkle more of that hope. That's what I do. The rest is entirely up to the client. I'm just there guiding them on the journey, but where they want to take it is entirely up to them. And I think that in itself helps with their self-efficacy.
Let me ask a question. I'm going to come back to some others here, but somebody said, how do you avoid burnout? And I can sense the answer within what you just said there. I want to
first you sleep.
All of that, yeah. But how do you avoid burnout as a therapist? People worry about this, and I certainly experienced it at one point in time.
By having a very good, solid foundation of habits that are going to help you in the good days, the bad days, the crappy days. And good habits such as self-care, such as being aware of where you are in terms of stress. You need to know yourself quite well, in the sense of, if you are feeling like, oh, I could have done better on that email, or I could have answered something in a different way to my client, because we are all taught to reflect a lot. This is what we do. Then you are able to pick up the signs, the early signs, and then you're like, oh, okay, I need to do something about it. But the foundation of your habits will dictate that. And I've gone through burnout myself, and I wasn't able to pick up the signs. And when I did, burnout was home. It wasn't.
As a therapist, or when you're an employee?
As a both.
As both. Interesting. So what I was picked up from what you said, which is why I went to that question, was you said, this is what I do, and then the rest is up to them. And so this sense of like not taking responsibility completely, you're responsible, but you're not responsible for everything, and what they do with it, and you can't control the factors of their life. No. And you've got 1 hour a week, maybe 2 hours a week, and that's it, So that sense, I'm here for you completely during this time. You're going to get the best of me right now, and then I gotta let you go and see what you make. So I that was implicit in what you said, which is why I jumped to that question there. I can't remember what you do. You sow a little doubt about things, so the possibility, and then you're a grower of hope, and then it's up to them, you said, and I just thought that's so wise. So that's why I jumped to that question there. Now, question here, Suella says, and we are going to finish up quite quickly now, which exercise scripts do you use for insomnia? How many sessions was needed to see some improvement?
Okay, there are a couple of scripts that are tailored to insomnia that were part of the training Mark did in terms of CBT for insomnia. And then I elaborated on some of them, and I got a little bit of a poetic license with ego strengthening, in the sense that it is about relaxation and, relaxing and getting into that state. But then instead of saying strong positive affirmations about I'm growing more calm, relaxed, and peaceful, I am drifting quicker to sleep, or depending on what the client is struggling with, I'm getting a little bit creative with those affirmations. So the principle is still the same. I'm trying to focus on their confidence in their sleep, but I'm using the language that they would normally use. And I'm like, oh, I go to bed in 20 minutes. I go to bed in 20 minutes. I go to bed in 20 minutes. Something like that.
Nice.
Maybe that's not the right phrase. I don't think I've ever said that, because I tend to make the suggestions much more, in the present moment and focus. But that is the idea behind it, is something that they would do right now, and drifting asleep, or waking up feeling refreshed, or it depends what is the particular client in front of me. And how many sessions, it really depends on the clients, and again, how interwoven insomnia is with other things. And not just insomnia, but hypersomnia or nightmares. They are very different people. I would say I haven't seen a massive improvement in less than 3 sessions up until this moment in time, but that could be based on my approach, but maybe other people see it much quicker.
I've always said it's one of the hardest things to predict. I have had clients who, because just showing them relaxation, self-regulation, boom, that's it. The second session, they're fine. And they've had trouble for 20 years. And you're like, well, there it was. It was just, it needed a little thing. But then other clients, 6 sessions, we've got some progress. We need to schedule some more. So I think it's hard. I think you just have to work patiently at the problem and bring a sort of a systematic approach to working through things.
Yeah.
Olya says here, how to increase clients' motivation to keep going when they had a setback, for example, when they had a poor night's sleep again. I can imagine they might feel really disheartened.
It's a blip. It's a blip. It happens. What are we going to do about it? You can't add sleep into your bank, and you can't remove sleep from your bank. It doesn't exist. You will sleep however much you're going to sleep tonight. So what are we going to do? We're going to focus on tonight. And yes, it's disheartening. I'm always there in the gutter with them, and I call it as it is. But at the same time, can you do anything about the past? No. What can we learn from it? Oh, I was on my phone for 3 hours last night. Okay, so what could we do tonight to change the outcome? Oh, maybe I should not be on my phone. Oh, let's try that. That would be very wise. So I think it's not so much about the motivation. For me, commitment comes first. Motivation may come, may go, may not be even in the room sometimes. I think it's the commitment, because if you've made the commitment to change something, and we don't break promises to ourselves, that is one of my mottos, then we come back to the commitment. So last night it happened. It's a blip. It's never going to be like this. You will always have a little bit of that. It's okay. Next time it happens, it's going to be a shorter kind of blip. It's okay.
As I say, yeah, everybody has some bad night's sleep, but insomniacs focus and worry about it.
That, yes. Yes.
That kind of nearly defines to a certain extent. So hold on. Let's come back here. We have a couple more. And then somebody said, Tanya says you mentioned earlier that you supervise and coach. Is that coaching other therapists?
At the moment, they are students. I haven't yet started supervising other therapists in practice. So I'm supervising students that are going through the diploma at the college.
So Denise has been, we saw she got such good scores on her assessment. She got some 10s and sprinkling of 9s, maybe not too many 8s. And so she might make a good tutor and coach. So yeah, Denise is one of the I call them tutors, Shelley calls them coaches for the online diploma. I think it's a bit of both actually in terms of the function. And you've been doing that how long, and how's that working out?
I have officially onboarded January this year, and I absolutely love it. And I am learning so much from my students. Probably like everybody else, I have the best students in the world. That's how I feel. I think it's just so great for me to be able to hopefully do at least a 10th of the job that Slee did when I was her student. So
her ears should be burning. She must be
in the positive way. Yes.
in a positive way. In a positive way. So I think that's a wrap. Are there any final questions here? I think we've covered most. And thank you, everybody. And we've gone over time a little bit, but it's been really, I've loved talking this through with you.
Likewise.
Tara says, Lee's my tutor too. Yeah, I've loved talking this through with you, Denise. It's been really lovely and lovely to really get to know you and your understanding, approach, ideas, and clear playfulness around all of this. And I just love that joy space.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's important.
It is. It is definitely important. And if I can leave everyone with something tonight, besides the conversation we've just had, is that we don't give medals for suffering in silence. So if you are struggling with sleep or other issues, make sure that you reach out to people, maybe not necessarily a therapist, maybe, people around you and things like that. It's something very important in my line of work. And I say that to each and every client at the beginning. We don't give medals for suffering in silence. If there is a problem, bring it to light, share it with whomever you want to share it, but just don't do it by yourself.
And there is help out there. CBT for insomnia, and when you add hypnosis to it, Hypno-CBT for insomnia works really well. And even with the elderly, it's so, do spread the word for people out there. I think it's one of the unsung sort of success stories of therapy, of how effective it is and how much it helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And sleep, guys, we need sleep just as much as we need food and water and air. If we want to be on this planet and have a nice life, we need to sleep. I know there's been a lot of sleep sacrificing for, career, or in the corporate world is the whole idea of, work more, sleep less. Please don't do that. And make sure you prioritize sleep where you can.
And as I always say, there are two types of people. There are people that undervalue sleep, and they're those professional people sacrificing it, and they need to value it a bit more. And then there are the people that perhaps overvalue sleep, and they're some of the insomniacs. They got too focused on it. They're worried about it too much. So be relaxed about sleep.
Exactly. It's a so what approach. It's fine. It's okay. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Denise. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to doing more of these sessions here. And I hope we get to do another session with you, Denise. I want to, let's particularly pile onto the worry issue. Some trickier issues sometimes. Worry can be a challenging area to work with, and can be so helpful to know some tools on that. Thank you, everybody. And yes, we'll see you all again soon. Thank you so much, Denise. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Bye.
Thank you, Slee, creating a wonderful...
Yes.
Here's Tara coming up.
Slee.
Hello. Did you enjoy that, Tara? Very good.
It was great. Thank you.
Are you taking the course, or you're thinking of taking it, or where are you?
I've just finished. Slee's my tutor, and I'm just starting my questions and my case studies.
She's lovely, isn't she?
Yeah, she keeps keeping the pressure on. So, because I work full time and I'm raising 3 kids on my own, and so it can be easy to let things slide.
You have your hands full.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good. I love this work. I'm excited about starting my own business. So,
you'll do great.
Where are you?
Luxembourg.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
We had somebody in Luxembourg, Vanessa Pearden. We have a story on the website. Within 2 months, she'd done 60 client sessions.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I know. She's just like corporate girl.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, she got into corporate work, I think, out there. Very, very, very successful very quickly. So One of the great things in a lot of these countries in Europe is there's been a domination by sort of psychodynamic and psychoanalytical therapies. And so when you come out with something like CBT for insomnia and then put a bit of hypnosis in it, it's like, whoa, it's big and fresh and different. And it's very practical for people. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. Lovely. And just, Denise, just 2 minutes. How are you doing with the Don Meichenbaum course, and what's the story? You keep talking about the story. Is that where you've been getting into that more? Is there sort of constructive narrative?
Excuse me for just a tick. I forgot to do something. 1 little second. I'm right back.
Oh, okay. Okay. We're way over time though. But anyway. So yeah, she's taking the Don Meichenbaum course, which is really that idea of it's the, you know, we are homo narrans storytellers, and it's the stories we tell ourselves and others that impact the way we experience the world in our lives, and helping to tell a better story. So and hypnosis being that, I think, the quintessential method for helping tell a better story. Close your eyes, relax, and imagine the following things are true. So
apologies. So your question, Mark, sorry.
Oh, just quickly before we finish up, for those that still have the Don Meichenbaum course, how is that working out? How are you enjoying that?
I am enjoying it very, very much. I do resonate with the whole idea of, you know, building resilience and fostering resilience within our clients. So I do genuinely love it. And also the questions that we ask ourselves as therapists, and how we can become better therapists for our clients, and how you have better outcomes, not so much directly linked to us, but the way that we serve our clients in a better way. So yeah, I do genuinely enjoy it a lot.
That I was saying, that kind of that narrative approach, the idea of the stories. You mentioned that idea of what's the story, and changing the story both about yourself and with your clients. So it seems you resonate with that constructive narrative perspective quite strongly.
Yeah, it is something that I didn't know as a concept before I went on the journey of learning.
And has he turned up for any of the sessions yet or not? I'm not sure.
I think he came on one of the Fridays when I couldn't attend the session.
Oh.
I think it was at the end of July, if I remember from Chris.
Oh, well, I think he's coming back in again. So enjoy. It's just such a precious thing to have some time with him. And he'll end up doing some therapy with you or something there. And then
he's such a great educator, and just, I think, a great therapist all around.
Yeah. Did you know he wrote a play about Mesmer?
No.
Yes. He doesn't like me to talk about it. He was fascinated by Mesmer. He wrote a play or an opera. A play, I think. And was completely fascinated by Mesmer.
I didn't know. I have to look it up if I can find it anywhere.
Find it anywhere. And when he came to Europe, he learned all the spots that Mesmer was. And
oh wow!
I think just the idea, that he created this completely sort of thing that wasn't anything, but
yeah,
and projecting this energy that wasn't there, and everyone buying into it, and the effect of that. And yeah, so he was just fascinated by it. Anyway, I thought there's a little gem for the evening for everyone. So thank you so much, Denise. Wonderful. Where are you based in North London? You're in North London?
I split my time between Northwest London and Greece. So at the minute I'm in Greece, and go back to London. Crete.
Oh, that's my favorite.
It's lovely. It's really, really lovely.
Yeah, really. I love it. I've been to Crete 5 times.
It is one of the special places where you will come and
whereabouts in Crete?
Chania, on the west end.
Yeah.
On the west part of the island. And it's just I don't have words for it. So very hot at the minute, but other than that, very good place.
The whole landscape and the culture and the history and the people, and it's fun.
It is one of a kind, in my view, at least. Yeah.
Very good. I shall let you go. I've been gone way over time, but it's been such a lovely conversation and meeting you.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
When you think about things, and
thank you for having me, Mark. And thank you for everyone. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Sweet dreams.